Hello everyone, it's me Clayson. I just finished watching Tom and Jerry, directed by Tim Story, and starring the famous cat and mouse that we all probably know and love from cartoons way back ever since the 1940s. Yeah, Tom and Jerry have certainly had a strange direction in the past few years, in that, for a long time, there was no direction. We are very familiar with Tom and Jerry's cinematic disaster opus back in the 90s, and we're also familiar with the various Tom and Jerry crossover animated films that tie them in with classic stories like Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but this is the first theatrically released Tom and Jerry film that we've seen in a while that also happens to be on HBO Max at the same time. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story is that a big wedding is happening at a big New York hotel where a woman named Kayla, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, is trying to work after she ends up stealing a resume from a much more qualified prospective employee. All while Tom and Jerry are fighting inside the hotel when Jerry is trying to find a home and when Tom, of course, is just trying to catch the mouse. And hijinks ensue. So it definitely feels like this is a movie where some of the script was definitely on autopilot when it comes to making it, where it definitely does use a lot of cliches of this type of story, where our human characters get a ton of focus, and Tom and Jerry sometimes feel like side characters in their own film, which definitely isn't a good thing. That and the script isn't exactly the strongest. It gets parts of the slapstick right, and it certainly does pay homage to classic Tom and Jerry in many of their scenes, but the human characters mostly fall flat. Even with Michael Pena, Chloe Grace Moretz, Ken Jeong, a lot of great comedic actors in the fold, it feels like a lot of them are barely even trying half the time. Probably because they realized that this film probably wasn't worth their A material. But you can definitely tell the animators were having fun doing it. Tom and Jerry's CGI happens to blend right in with the live action, almost like Space Jam or Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And the slapstick really does feel as impactful, and it feels as well done as it ever has. They even use old voice samples from Tom's original voice actor for his part, and they work out pretty well. His screams genuinely feel authentic when he gets maimed. But I guess they figured that typical slapstick from Tom and Jerry wouldn't be enough to carry an entire film. But if this is what they wanted to do for a Tom and Jerry movie, I wish they would have gotten a better writer, or a better director than the guy who ruined Fantastic Four twice, considering even though they had a ton of time to work this out, they certainly don't feel the need to avoid any cliches when it comes to this kind of film, or films that you've seen in like Alvin and the Chipmunks or the Smurfs. In fact, quite the opposite. They somehow managed to hit every single one throughout its 1 hour and 40-minute runtime. But that's not to say this film is as bad as the Chipmunks or the Smurfs films. Like I said, it does at least get its title characters done well. The human characters aren't utterly annoying and completely insufferable like they are in Alvin and the Chipmunks and the Smurfs. They're just not very interesting. And even though the film does use a lot of cliches, it at least keeps a good enough pace and has enough decent moments that it certainly doesn't feel like a drag to go through the entire film. I just think that it's definitely not the Tom and Jerry film that it could have been. And that's why I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. See you next time.